Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Decentralized Economy. My name is Bill Inman. Of course, Decentralized Economy is brought to you by Singularity Net, and you're probably either a community in the community for Singularity Net. You could be an AGI token holder. You could be an AI enthusiast, or just want to learn more about crypto and kind of got guided here. But we've got a tremendous episode for you today. We've got a panel discussion with three of the foremost expert investors in cryptocurrency, and we're going to hear from them today. I'll introduce them in just a second. As we all know, being now we're in May of 2021, we're in the middle of a tremendous bull run. We hope keeps going. Many people say it'll continue through the end of the year. We'll get some opinions on that in this episode today. We're excited here at Singularity Net. Again, if you're part of the community, you know this because the Singularity Dao is launching. And that is a market-making utility for altcoins. It's going to be used in concert with AI to help manage dynamic indexes. And Singularity Dao is a very exciting offshoot project of Singularity Net. I'm the CEO of Singularity Studio, which is also a spinoff of Singularity Net, where we build enterprise AI. And I also have a background in blockchain, a blockchain patent holder. I manage an investor network for Bit Angels out of the city of Los Angeles. I'm in Las Vegas today, but generally I'm out of Los Angeles. And super excited to have this group here with you. So let me introduce Leslie Tam of GBV Capital. Nice to have you here today. Sherwin Lee of QSN. Nice to have you here today, Sherwin, as well. And Chris Croft of SMO Capital as well. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Let me just assure you, everybody on this call, I've done my research and you're going to hear a little bit about their backgrounds. And as you know, if you've seen my episodes, I like to get to the origin stories of why people are in the business and what their motivations are and learn about their background and how they got here, with the intent of everybody here learning how to get there too, if that's what you want to be in life. So we'll hear a lot about the details of how they got involved with the business. And one thing I've learned about these interviews with everybody when it comes to cryptocurrency is you want to get to your information fast. You love that part of it. So before we get to everybody's deep background, when we hear from these experts now, I just want to go into the most important question. Remember that the title of this episode is The State of Cryptocurrency Part 2. If you saw Part 1 with Marshland Capital, then you saw that there was a lot of information in that hour-long interview, and I urge you to go back and listen to that. And also, we did an earlier cryptocurrency episode with Michael Turpin. Many of you know who he is. He's known as the godfather of crypto to many. So, gentlemen, again, welcome. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be super informative for everybody here that's listening. You're either in Hong Kong or Singapore, if I have that all right today. So it's 6 a.m. here in Las Vegas, and it's 9 at night where you are. Thanks again. I'm sure you've had a lively day in the market. So Leslie, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask the same question of everybody just to jump right into it. And again, we're going to talk about your background in depth after we kind of get through this launch question. Tell us now, what do you think, in your own words, where are we at in the crypto market today? Why is it hot? What do you think about the state of the current cryptocurrency market?
Yeah, I think we're at a very exciting stage of the crypto market. I think there was a lot of groundwork being laid in 2017, 2018, where there was a lot of things that people wouldn't really know what they were building for. It's a lot of infrastructure. Some didn't work, some worked. I think starting last summer with DeFi, we really started seeing real use cases. And, in terms of decentralized transfer of value, finance is really the place where we're sort of breaking the old guard. And this year, I'm super excited. First of all, it's a bull market. I think slowly people are understanding the power of blockchain. But secondly, a lot of primitives that were built last year or were popular last year, such as lending or asset management or trading, they're now going to mature this year. And you're also seeing a lot of investment and money and attention coming in from the traditional space more and more as it come in. So it's a very exciting time. It's a little bit different because we were all sort of evangelists and we're sort of like the early adopters of the technology. But this year and next year, it promises to be sort of the real uptake of users and making things user friendly and connecting things and making easier to use products that make more sense for the average person. So in our investments as well, we see a lot more of this, and it's been very exciting. Yeah.
Well put. Thank you. I liked how you used the word primitives, because we're so early in this whole life cycle It seems just light years from 2017, 2018 in the first bull run, but we're still in the primitive era. So you're right. We're using the power of blockchain for so many exciting use cases. We'll talk about some of them today. Singularity Dao. Let me mention two things first before we go forward. Nothing in this episode is financial advice. If you want financial advice, contact your financial advisor. Everybody here is an investor, and certainly an investor in Singularity Dao too. That's the second thing I wanted to mention. But if you want financial advice, I'm sure there'll be a ton of good information here. Everybody here is good for that, but contact your financial advisor. So the power of blockchain, as you said, Leslie, is so critical. So Sherwin, if I may, I'm going to hand that question off to you.
Indeed.
What is the current state of cryptocurrency? Why is it hot in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. So when we first entered the space in 2016, 2017, there was a rush of development of scalable protocols. It was all about solving the blockchain trilemma of scalability, decentralization, and security. So what actually happened and iterated from there were the development of new scalable protocols, layer 2 iterations, as well as new public chains, which try to solve the scalability issue present in Ethereum, as well as the lack of smart contracts or Turing-complete smart contracts in Bitcoin. And so in 2017, first we saw a move to decentralize everything, and that was a folly. I think with knowledge and the development of use cases on public chains, we realized that finance is the major use case of blockchains today, because blockchains allow the storage of value as well as the immutable transfer of that value in a way that accounts for provenance. So what we see today is a big trend in DeFi, which is decentralized finance. When we first entered the DeFi space, it was less than 100 million total value locked. And in a matter of 2-3 years, it's now over 60 billion, well, 75 billion, I believe, and exponentially growing. And what we see here is huge institutional and TradFi demand for yield. And so we see a lot of flow and liquidity moving into the space simply to capture this semi-rich. So what we see today really is this inflection point of mass adoption. And what I would say here is the development of these use cases in DeFi allows us to reinvent traditional financial primitives, echoing what Leslie has said, even in the area of spot markets, options, synthetic assets, derivatives, options, perp swaps. We see different sort of iterations on the blockchain, and that's really what's exciting us in this season.
Right, well put across the board. A lot of really exciting things there. Of course, we're in the phase of smart contracts, seeing how important that is, and certainly DeFi is being revolutionized. Finance in general is being revolutionized across the board. And I'm excited also about a lot of the other use cases that we're seeing even outside of finance. I know that I'm involved in a human capital project as well that has some really interesting use cases. So blockchain is revolutionary. Thank you so much, Sherman. Appreciate that. Chris, I'll hand off to you. What do you think the current state of cryptocurrency is? Why is it hot, etc.?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think today especially is an exciting day because we've seen Ethereum hit an all-time high of 3,500. So I think only a couple of years ago it was under $100. So and 3,500 would have been unthinkable at the time. It was such a big target, right? So I think that's huge. That's exciting. I think crypto, there's been a lot of validation of the crypto markets. So we've seen big institutional players, like Tesla, for example, MicroStrategy, investing significant amounts of money into Bitcoin. And then importantly, Tesla liquidating 10% of their assets shows that they can take money out, which I think is hugely important, from a risk calculation perspective from institutions. So I think that bodes well for the future of the market in terms of attention from institutional investment. To echo what the guys have said so far, DeFi is a great use case for cryptocurrencies, and in terms of total value locked, Ethereum used to have the monopoly on DeFi, right? And now we're probably 60-70 billion in terms of total value locked on Ethereum. But when we look at Binance Chain, Binance Chain's come up from nowhere, to around about sort of 40-45 $billion as well. So we've seen kind of monopolies of chains, now diversification of a real use case of these different L1s, right? So I think in terms of what's hot now, a lot of people are frustrated with the lack of speed on Ethereum, the gas charges, and so we're seeing a lot of demand for alternative platforms as well, right? So looking at things like EVM compatible chains, like Avalanche, and looking at things like Polkadot, for example, and building out on that platform, and then also Solana, which is gathering a lot of attention at the moment in terms of a lot of DeFi projects, looking to build their solutions on the Solana platform as well. So, and then on top of that, what's hot right now, I'd say NFTs. So I think it's something quite tangible that your average retail investor can associate with, can connect to, as a tangible asset. So we're seeing huge, big influencers like Mark Cuban and Gary V, supporting and influencing the NFT space. So I think this bodes well for non-crypto people coming into this world. So yes, I think we're in terms of the overall, I think we're right in the middle of the bull market. We could at any point see a pullback, and I'm surprised we haven't so far. It just continues to go up and up and up. So I think it's super exciting. I'm always cautious about a pullback, but I really do think this thing can go significantly further than it has done so far.
It is super exciting. It's always exciting when it goes up. Roller coasters go down too. So, as we said, we're not financial advisors, so expect that at some point. But you're right, the parabolic growth of Ethereum, even in just the past week, has been nuts. And, the growth across the board that we're seeing is really, really exciting. Of course, NFTs, we had a tremendous episode here. We had one gentleman on that panel with our NFT episode who had bought one of the Beeples for 600,000 and he sold it for 6.6 million about five months later. So that's not a bad market as well. That also is in its primitive form, but it is nice to see another use case. It is DeFi, but it is a use case somewhat different than the standard DeFi usage that we're seeing store of value. For example, in some of the tokens that we're seeing in some of the rise, but exciting times. And liquidity, Chris, is something you said. There's a tremendous amount of liquidity now. You mentioned Tesla, and they almost have done as well with their Bitcoin holding as far as liquidity and the upside as they did in profitability at their day job, the automobile company, for the entire year. It's tremendous that they made so much money so fast, but Elon Musk is a smart man. So liquidity, I'm going to dovetail into an important and exciting conversation, which is Singularity Dao. I've already mentioned that all of you are investors in Singularity Dao now, and you're all excited about it. We'll have you talk about that in just a second. Singularity Dao leverages AI to create dynamic indexes of altcoins with the effort, and it's just releasing, everybody, with the effort to provide additional liquidity to the market. Because there's a lot of low value altcoins out there that have tremendous utility. And they might be getting good reviews at places like Reddit or across the board on the internet, or might have a very bright future and good utility. And Singularity DAO is going to help bring those together via AI, with AI. We'll talk more in depth about that later. So I'd love for you, Sherwin, I'll start with you if that's okay. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about Singularity DAO, why you're involved. If you want to explain a little bit more about it, please do. We'll have everybody answer that one.
It's a bit of a holy grail, I think. Artificial intelligence and blockchain. Quite buzzy too, but I think Singularity DAO is the front runner here and the leader in being able to seek this convergence. Now, I think blockchain and AI convergence is inevitable because both deal with data and value. Now, blockchain enables the secure storage and sharing of data or anything of value. AI can analyze and generate insights from that data and generate further alpha. So larger data sets create better machine learning models. So the more important thing here in the convergence is I see blockchain also providing a token incentive system that actually encourages participants to contribute to data that improves models. So, for example, the ability to verify and track changes allows us to compute and pay out rewards and tokens for contributions that improve AI models at a very basic level. So I think, obviously, the leaders behind Singularity DAO are very well versed in AI. And I'm really excited to see, the products that will be launched on Singularity DAO.
The Holy Grail, that's a lot to say right out of the gate, but I agree with you. So as I mentioned before, I'm the CEO at Singularity Studio, where we build enterprise software via AI. And I think all of you on this call know, and most of you who are watching this video know, that a Singularity Net's founder, one of the founders, is Dr. Ben Goertzel. He's known as the father of artificial general intelligence. I have the pleasure of working with him almost every single day, and just tremendous man. I call him, to some degree, without the drama, the Tiger Woods of AI, because he was born and raised to kind of get where from being a little guy with his math and philosophy background of his father and grandfather to get where he is today. And he has some tremendous ideas on benevolent AI that we raise to help us, not hurt us, as opposed to using AI for marketing and maybe even for military and warfare, using it for purposes like nurse robots for companionship, which these are the type of products that Singularity Net is spinning off and rolling out. So as you all know, Dr. Ben is behind a lot of this. Some of the foremost minds in decentralized AI. I think we all know the power of decentralized and blockchain versus a centralized world is phenomenal. And that's all part of the backbone, the DNA of this. Leslie, let me go to you. Singularity Dao, what's your opinion of it? You're an investor in it now. What's your opinion? What do you think?
Sure. I mean, I think of this in a different way. I think of it as a new user coming into the space. What is a way that I can get exposure to this exciting market? I mean, Bitcoin, fine, Ethereum, I get it, but some of these lower cap coins and some of the projects, say it's like the Russell 2000 index, and so for us, we've been, I have a finance background. I guess we can talk about that later. But I'm very used to the concept of pools or closed-end funds or index funds and so on. And the thing that excites me about Singularity DAO, there's a few index fund projects out there that are trying to do indices. There's Set Protocol. There's a few other ones as well that actually I've looked at. I was looking at them maybe three or 4 months back, but I think a lot of them didn't really address the right things. Maybe they were a little bit too academic, or they were overcomplicating themselves. They wanted to create something that's similar with some kind of complex management system that replicated traditional finance. With Singularity DAO, it does two things. One, it aggregates tokens in a way that improves liquidity, which I think is very useful for some of these smaller projects. It's better to become an index fund. And secondly, it uses AI to risk manage and create and optimize the portfolio. So these are two things that I think are critical for adoption in the next growth of DeFi. So it becomes a better user experience, and people are, we can look after the people that are coming in that are less educated. Not everyone spends 23 hours of their day going on Twitter and Telegram rooms and checking everything, right? So I think it's a great product. And the other thing is, what matters is also distribution and having a strong network of supporters. And with Singularity Net behind Singularity DAO and the products that get offered, I feel like its path to marketing itself is a lot clearer.
Yeah, so good points. If you're watching this video, to some degree, even if you don't know if you're a Singularity Net supporter, since Decentralized Economy is produced by Singularity Net. You focused on this a couple times, Leslie, and I so agree with you on this, usability. What's crazy to think is if you said Ethereum to somebody on the street, they'd probably say, bless you. Or what did you say? Because they don't understand the word that's coming out of your mouth. Mark Andreessen with the Netscape browser, it revolutionized the internet because that Netscape browser, from a usability standpoint, made it easy for the average person to access the internet. And the flood of information, I look at my accounts in crypto often, and it's never enough. It keeps me up at night knowing if I'm going to be able to react fast enough. So AI, faster, smarter, but you're so right about the usability. And I know at Singularity Studio, we're building intelligent virtual assistants to make accessing the data, accessing the AI easier, and Singularity DAO is making it easier. I totally agree with you. So I see your focus there. I also see your hat, what if? I love the optimism there, by the way. Chris, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand this off to you. Singularity DAO, why did you invest? What do you like about it?
Yeah, so just in terms of my background, I spent a lot of time with technology groups of top tier investment banks and hedge funds, and as part of my background. And then the other part of my background is running an AI machine learning business. And so I've got a kind of this Singularity DAO, I think, marries the two. One of the things that I really like about crypto is decentralizing these traditional structures and these traditional institutions and giving power to the to the common man. And when I've worked with, say, top tier hedge funds or investment banks, they spend significant amounts of money to attract the best AI talent, to build the best AI systems, to give them a competitive advantage over the rest of the market. Having spoken to hundreds, maybe even thousands of different AI and machine learning people, AI is a buzzword, as to Sherwin's point. that everybody kind of uses, but those people that really know their stuff in AI and machine learning, is that, there's very few who know the nuts and bolts, right? And so for me, the Singularity project is world class in terms of AI and machine learning, and there's a significant depth of talent, of PhDs on the team, people they can draw on, for expertise. And effectively, what they're doing, if I look at the macro trends in the market, and something that stood out to me was the Wall Street bets, because it effectively, it gave power to the common man, who outsmarted the traditional finance organizations, the investment banks, by group sharing, group thinking, and it's effectively sort of a big collective research function enabled them to do that, and sharing of information. This, to me, is giving the common man the same tools, the sophisticated tools and techniques that they have in the traditional investment banking and hedge fund world. So for me, it's significantly different from a set protocol is a rules-based type of system, whereas this is artificial intelligence, machine learning. So he's able to interpret data from a number of different sources. When we look at the historical trade data, if you look at predictive analytics, we can also look at things like sentiment analysis and look at what's happening on Twitter and Telegram, etc., and use that to make sophisticated decisions on investments, what to buy, what to sell, how to balance a portfolio. To me, this is head and shoulders above anything else in the market. And what excites me is giving this to the common man, the retail trader.
Yeah, I wasn't as familiar with the fact that you have that deep AI background. We're going to go into that in a second. So we both agree that the AI is a game changer as far as this is concerned. And you're so right about the talent. I'm fortunate enough to speak with a lot of CIOs or even chief AI officers, CAIOs at large global 2000 companies, and they can't find the talent. There is 900,000 AI job openings around the world, and there's about 300,000 good AI profiles, qualified AI profiles on LinkedIn. It's a huge disparity. So having access from a decentralized manner, and of course having this community at Singularity Net, which Singularity Dao spun off, is a huge advantage for us. So totally agree with you there as well. Now that we've got into two things, like right out of the gate, for our impatient crypto investors who want to know where the market is going, let me dive a little bit deeper, because I think I always like on these sessions to go into, as I mentioned earlier, where did you come from? How'd you get here? I think it's interesting for people to understand our journey. Sherwin, for example, you said, if I heard you correctly, you started in 2016. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. My background was in law, actually doing a lot of collateralized debt obligations, form of securitization, which effectively is tokenization in SPVs with insolvency remoteness. So how we think about tokenization is rather similar. So coming into 2016 during the ICO fever, I used to consult, advise projects on their token economics, their crypto economics, as well as how to avoid being classified as any type of capital markets product or security. And then from there, sort of, it was only natural for my practice to evolve into a investor accelerator. And so we partner projects from seed stage, all the way from legal incorporation, all the way to listing and post-listing monetary policies, treasury management, market making. So we see projects from an early stage all the way to their natural evolution. And we've been partnering many projects since 2016.
Right. So were you a law firm dedicated to technology before you started?
Yeah, that's right. I used to run a law firm, which is still around in Singapore, predominantly doing work for blockchain companies.
And so when was the moment you said, I have to dig in and be an investor primarily? Was there did something happen? What happened for you to make you dive in?
I think it was a natural sort of progression. Once you have digital assets and there is volatility risk, and you tend to evolve into an asset manager of sorts. Also, because the space evolves so quickly, it's important to have a balanced, diversified portfolio approach. And in addition to that, one must understand that every token has a yield profile and collateral value. So there was no time to be a lawyer anymore, to be honest. It was about managing this portfolio of crypto assets to achieve the optimal yield outcomes and hedging that portfolio when the circumstances arise to do so. And we found that being systematic is important to surviving in the space. And we're kind of proud that we have these processes in place.
Yeah, I've worked with people on projects who came to me recently and said, I've 10x my crypto portfolio over the past 2 months, and I feel like I'm losing tens of thousands of dollars a day. I have to focus on it, Bill. I said, I totally understand. It forces you into it. One more question, Sherwin, on this topic. What do you love about this industry right now? You personally, like, what excites you about it?
I think we're in the forefront of a technological evolution, almost a paradigm shift. If I might even call it a giant wealth transfer or distribution of wealth. And I think it's important to steward this wealth for the benefit of humanity in a very idealistic way. That actually means ecosystem development. So the resources that are given to us, God willing, is meant to develop the ecosystems that we have partnered with from day one. And not only in the financial space where you have DeFi ecosystem developments across various chains, and now including on Cardano, we see the playbook and we see the precedents. And because of that, we can iterate and ideate on that to make better versions of what happened before. And this technological disruption is inevitable. And keeping ahead of this evolution really excites me.
The answer, convergence, as you've said actually a couple of times. I'd say Leslie so far has that ease of use, and I totally agree with, but your focus, as you've mentioned a couple of times, convergence. I totally agree, from robotics, AR, VR, blockchain, even getting into quantum in the future. There's so much convergence. The world is changing. Indeed. And along those lines, there is a transfer of wealth. I think we're seeing it right now. So, and the person on the street doesn't even get it yet. They will. And as you said, Sherwin, I think it's good to help people understand so they can get on the train as well. So thank you for that. Leslie, I'll turn to you. We want to know about, how you got here. What were you doing before you got into this wild ride?
Sure, I was actually pretty boring. I mean, I started in traditional finance and banking. So I was at Goldman in New York doing CDOs. So I don't know if I worked with Sherwin in the past, but I think he's a lot younger than me. And then I moved over to Hong Kong, and the whole time I was in fixed income. So as of 2018, I was head of Hong Kong fixed income sales at Bank of America. And I was just bored, there was a lot of regulation, a lot of interesting, I mean, regulation's fine, but it was onerous. Like, people were just covering their just try to with tons of paperwork, and a lot of interesting things we did, like CDOs, like structured products, a lot of things that actually we see now. That was why I did finance, and I was just bored, and I was very lucky. I knew some guys who were at Binance, and so I moved to Binance in 2018. I started off the OTC trading desk where we were doing block trades, and then eventually I also became head of coverage of the entire exchange. So all the high frequency traders, large asset managers, also people who are looking to sell or buy positions from us. So sort of like sales and trading for Binance. But I'm here for the dream and to do really, really cool stuff. So I moved to a more management senior role at CoinFlex, where I was the chief strategy officer. So I really focused on tech and the product, building out the platform. I realized that a lot of things that Binance did were really good, and there's a lot of issues with sort of marketing as well, even though you have the tech. And then DeFi summer came, and I talking to guys like Sherwin, and a lot of stuff. For example, I was the day one YFI. I did the compound trade. I used Curve before anyone did it. Then we went Yam. Then we went Sushi. Then we went War, Magical Rainbow, Pod Thai. I did like 50 farms, and we didn't sleep because it was just like I was literally listening to my K-pop like on the computer, just like farming. I'm sure people understand what I'm saying when they do this, and I thought, okay, you know what, this is my calling in the sense that it's a lot of interesting stuff that I want to do this, and at that time the market wasn't even that crazy. I said, I'm just gonna quit. Like I know exchanges are really cool, but when I graduated, I didn't say I want to work at exchange. I want to do really cool sort of payoffs and structures. And so it eventually sort of led down to hanging out with the Genesis block guys, and we had a lot of kindred spirits in the sense of we wanted to invest and we thought the market was good. And we had sort of very complementary personalities as well. So we started GBV. And so we started basically in September. Maybe people didn't really know who we were because we didn't really use a name, but I think that's in the last 6 months, we've made quite a number of investments. I mean, number of investments is not necessarily a thing to be good at, but it does give us a good perspective of the market. So we've made, I think 130 investments in different projects across DeFi, NFTs, and so on. And it just tells us that you know, there's so much innovation happening in the space, and it's just very exciting. And every day we learn from different guys. It's just very cool, yeah, and fun.
Well, it'll probably take days to do based on what you just said, but you got to update your website. I counted 52 projects, and you're 130 now. It's probably
Yeah,
hard
so
just to
there's some
keep
in the
up.
pipeline. I think there's like 15 or something that they haven't announced yet, but you know, we just keep going. We just keep going.
There's some
It's
exciting
interesting.
projects there on your site
And the
for
good
sure.
thing is there's synergies too, right? So you know, there's infrastructure, we can introduce them to guys going multi-chain. Then there's NFTs which have a marketplace, and so they might have some technology that can be used for by the lending platforms to lend NFTs. So it's very exciting. Sort of connecting everything together reminds me of sort of why I enjoyed, you know, kind of doing these deals and sort of working and cooperating with the founders in the space. People are a lot more energetic too in crypto compared to finance. You know, finance was like, are you gonna take me out to steak dinner? If you don't take me out to steak dinner, I'm not giving you the trade. I mean, it's almost like that, right? And you can just talk to a TradFi guy, you'll feel that like immediately. So I'm just very glad to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations on being here at this point in time. We'll all knock on wood, pinch ourselves, because at this point in human history, it's a great time to be alive. There's a lot of strife in the world. Let's try to fix it, as Sherman said as well. I know that Leslie, you and Sherwin have known each other for some time. And of course, Chris is just meeting everybody like I am today, but you're all part of the alumni of Singularity Dao, Singularity Net now, as part of that family and fraternity. So that's excellent. I'm gonna go back to one thing you said, Leslie, which is it's your calling. So I like to get into this and really understand. So I'll ask you, and you had glimpses of it. Why is this your calling of all things in life?
Sure. I guess it's my personality as well. I like to learn lots of things with sort of incomplete data very quickly. And I think crypto is that, right? I mean, at the beginning, we're kind of on top of things when it was still sushi and Yam's code getting exploited and everything until and if recently now with BSC, it's just exponential. But you know, making sense of all this information, seeing what the themes are, you know, where things are going, where the market is going, where the risks are, you can kind of see a pattern. And so it's just been you know, I find it enjoyable. Whereas in banking, you know, or like white collar jobs, what is it about? You know, we talk about the fast paced environment and trading the markets, but most of the time it's like buttering up your boss so he gives you more capital to trade, or you know, going to your boss so you can take over hedge funds as well. You know, a lot of it's like internal, and that's the biggest thing. Like we see that so a lot of TradFi guys come over and they're like, hey bro, let's, you know, can you teach me about farming? Let's get a beer someday. And I'm like, do you know who Zhu Su, Paradigm, and Artho X are? If you don't know who these guys are, just come back, you know. And they think it's like, oh, let's just have a beer, and then it's about relationships. I'm like, it's nothing to do with relationships. Take out your phone, get on Twitter, and just be on Twitter 15 hours a day, and if you get it, then you get it, you know. And that's the greatest leveler, and that's what I like about it as well, in that it's not about being moneyed and knowing your friends from school. You could be some guy in Slovenia sitting in a small village, and you're just as good as like some you know, high-end banker working in New York. You just need to have the balls to try things and be smart. And why does finance have to be relegated to just the top cities, right? And so it's great, and in a sense, it's sort of taking out the middleman and everything, and sort of I think in crypto, if you hustle and you work hard and you are sure of yourself, you're gonna succeed. It's got nothing to do with buttering up people, and that's what I like about it. Yeah, it's my calling.
I love that answer. It gives the power back to the people, which I think that this convergence of technology is doing. And yeah, a lot of the people who are watching this are here like, how can I 10x my money in the next 6 months? And sure, that's possible in some cases. In some cases, it might go the reverse direction. But the one thing that we have as individuals that Leslie and Sherwin and Chris, you all stated, is we have the power now to learn, to understand, to listen, and do that individually. And we can go as far as we want. You all seem like great guys. And I think grounding this in your background is so important because it shows people that they can do it too. And that's a big part of what I want to convey here. This isn't just for you know, a network of high level people and elites. This is for everybody. So thank you for that. Chris, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand off to you and let's talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't come from a big investment bank. I worked in recruitment, staffing and recruitment. So I worked the London markets for 8 years, and then moved over to Hong Kong. And worked here and built a business here, and and then obviously moved into the AI recruitment business. So a bit of a different background from the guys. And to echo Leslie's point, everything that I learned in crypto, I learned through YouTube, Twitter, hands-on. This information is accessible to everybody. There's no elitism within this world, right? So when I first started in 2017, I've always been quite a curious person, always wanting to learn, and throwing myself into situations where I don't know the content and then trying to figure it out. And for Bitcoin, obviously heard Bitcoin for a number of years, and was following it, but I wanted to be more involved. So bought my first Bitcoin, to participate in this world. And then, as probably everyone does, you go down the rabbit hole of the many layers of like realizing what money is, and what a bad deal we get with fiat currency, and economic policies. And then you go down the kind of the blockchain route, I read Blockchain Revolution, and you look at all the kind of possibilities, that this technology can bring. And the thing that really caught my attention was the vision, or the potential, the future of this technology, not necessarily where it was, but where it was going. I found it really exciting. The things that stood out to me were banking the unbanked, insuring the insured, having the ability to get money to those parts of the world that are maybe, are not advanced economies. Maybe they only have mobile phones, they don't have computers. So, to have the power of a banking your phone, was really powerful for me. And I think there's huge possibilities for for this technology. And so for me, it was a hobby on the side, something that I invested almost, every hour outside of work, reading up on, and, and everything else. And, I rode the market up, and then I rode the market down. I didn't sell when I should have sold. I was a newbie, but I still believed in the technology. And so, I kept buying on the way down, and, fortunately did buy near the kind of bottom. But then, when things started to pick up, and then, we had the DeFi summer, the market just went crazy. And, then, I wanted to make a shift and move my career into crypto and become full-time crypto, but I couldn't quite figure out what that looked like. I couldn't see what kind of job I would do for a corporation or a company, where my skills would be applicable. And then, with SMO, it was a group of friends who come from different backgrounds. We've got a guy from Goldman Sachs, we've got a guy who runs a technology company, a guy who focuses on governance. So we've all got very, very different skill sets, but we're business leaders, very experienced, and our commonality is our passion for crypto and the future potential. So for me, to echo Leslie's point, and a lot of what Leslie said, actually, I felt some synergy with, because when you immerse yourself into this world, and the benefit of the position that we're in is that we get to we're fully in, and we get to talk to all these different projects. And for me, the exciting part is seeing the collaboration efforts, similar to Leslie, right? It's like, there's lots of different silos of projects that, maybe they have technical skills, but they're lacking maybe some of the marketing skills, or they're lacking some other skills, whereas we know other people that can help them with that, help them with their tokenomics, or, with their launch, or, whatever that may be. So, for me, and also when we invest in a project, we don't invest in lots and lots of projects. We invest in fewer, but we are more active in those projects. So, in some projects we'll get involved in, product design, be part of that, that feedback loop, that strategy, designing the actual product as well, and making sure that, we set them up for success as much as possible. We help to accelerate their growth. So for me, I pinch myself every morning. I can't believe this is actually my job. Because it's like my hobby, my passion is actually the thing I get to do every day. So, I'm pretty happy, and like I said, I'm very excited about, where the market's going to go.
Yeah, very interesting. Everybody has a different background here, but Chris, that makes two of us on this call because I've been a human capital staffing entrepreneur for over 20 years before getting into emerging technology in 2015, 2016, myself diving in. So building businesses, including, multi-billion dollar MSP contingent workforce solutions from scratch. So usually the first one in. So I appreciate that. That makes two of us on this call. So I guess I'm not the only one that saw the light. So very, very interesting, guys. Great to hear your background. Really appreciate it. A couple more questions. I think we're already like 45 minutes in and it's gone by in a flash. And we want to keep these generally under an hour. Just on community alone, because you've all mentioned it. It's important to work together, have a community. We see that these Telegram communities are so important to each of your projects because people can disseminate information quickly. I know for me, I go to look at altcoins. I go to see how active is their Telegram, what's being said there, who are these people? I really want to know about it. Let's dial back though, and I have two more questions for you. The last question is going to be, where do you see the market in 5 to 10 years, just to prep you for that. But the next one is, let's talk about what you guys invest in. You've touched upon it a little bit. If you could each go into what your companies invest in, what you look for. I think there's a lot of people that are either creating tokens or want to understand them better that would like to know about that. So Leslie, I'll start with you. At GBV, right when you're getting a drink, I'll start right when you're at GBV, what do you look for in an investment? What do you invest in?
Sure. I mean, we invest in teams. Crypto is so fast changing. If someone comes to me and says, this is my 2-year plan, and we'll come back to the question about you asking me 5 years from now. If I feel like they're not gonna grind, know what the market is and respond, it's gonna be hard. This is not like a tech thing where you see barriers to entry. A traditional tech, you see barriers to entry, you build a 5-year plan, you get funding and you go for it. This is an industry where you need to bootstrap your funding all the time, talk to different guys, change as the market changes. The themes change every 4 months, it seems, right? And so you see a lot of the teams that have done really well, for example, like Stani at Aave and Kane, they're gritty fighters, they push through, and that's generally what we talk, what we look for in a team. And the rest of it is really just supporting them, because on our side we have resources to help with marketing if that's your weak point, content creation. We also have guys that we also have product managers that would help with UX UI, because often that's what's missing in a lot of these products nowadays. And when there's trading mechanisms, liquidation mechanisms, a lot of DeFi mechanisms, then that's of course something I personally enjoy. So there's a lot of different things where we can help on the sort of simple part of things, but in the end what matters is the tenacity and the grit, and that shows up in the community as well. If you think about it, the community is like super high quality customer service, right? I mean, just imagine calling, I think even like transferring some money out of a bank in another country, or calling customer service on from a shop, it's horrible, right? But if you go to the community room, yes, there are scammers. They come to you sending their addresses, but most of the time, if you know who the guy is and you're experienced, you can get a response in like less than a minute, basically, right? And so it's really quite powerful what's happening here. So as long as you have the grit and you have the tenacity, if founders feel like they should embrace that rather than be holier than thou in terms of that kind of stuff, that's what we look for. So it's kind of funny because even though I'm from a traditional background, at least for now, some of the more traditionally minded people may not do as well in the space, because back to what I said, a lot of their advantage is kind of working the system. And so when we step back and realize there's no system, it's about product, it's about the finance, it's about the return for your users. What can you do? It's sort of very pure in that sense. And when there's no barrier to entry, right? There's no moat. Anyone can take your idea. Then what you need is basically grit, tenacity, pluckiness, and so basically when we talk to team, we have to have a phone call with the founders, because we basically need to see how they respond, how they react, what the personality is. Can they take sort of failure? Because they're definitely gonna have a failure. They're gonna have 5 failures in the next 2 months, right?
A gritty team that can evolve. I love that part, being an entrepreneur my whole time, and certainly it's worked for the Aave folk. They've done quite well on their rise over time here, and I love that. So Sherwin, I'll pass that question to you. What do you guys look for in an investment? And you've got a couple organizations. You've got QSN, QCB, another as well. So tell us what you look for in others.
Yes, certainly. I think first of all, we need to understand that this is investing in startups. So ultimately, in startups, there's a high percentage of failure. So a lot of investors tend to underprice execution risk. And so instead of investing in memes or hype, I think the most important thing is to assess the team as to whether they can execute. And in every team, there would need to be certain characters, including a very technical guy, an engineering guy, as well as a leader or CEO that can bring everything together. So certain personalities are involved. The second thing is product and product market fit. So these two things are very important. You can sell the dream, but if you have no product and there's no market fit for that product, it's useless. It's a dud. And the third thing I would like to say about investing in this space is you need a thesis, and fundamental value investing still makes sense. So when I refer to that, I refer to token value capture, network cash flows, protocol growth, and protocol value. And how does all that value flow back to the token? If it's a hyperinflationary token that does not accrue value from network growth, it's useless. So that's kind of important. And in terms of our thesis and segmentation here, obviously we're very focused on DeFi. At DeFi Capital, we are one of the earliest sort of investors in Ethereum DeFi and have followed on to Solana, to BSC. And I think it's very important here to understand a few things. One is there are certain financial primitives that are very essential to every sort of public chain or every DeFi ecosystem. Obviously, we have the AMM and we have the money markets as well for borrowing, lending. And of course, now that people demand a higher fixed income, we have leverage farming as well. So these primitives are important, right? And then we have synthetic assets, prediction markets, futures. So we invest across all these segments and take a very broad approach. Our thesis there is that the derivatives market is $1 trillion marketplace, and it will be in magnitudes of the spot market, just like in TradFi. And today we see that the derivatives market is actually a fraction. So like particularly in options, right? So we look for the exponential growth. We take a view as to how the industry will grow, and just echoing Leslie's point about founders and how it's important to pivot. I think this industry iterates really quickly, so it's important to have founders who are able to identify their failures and pivot away from approaches that are not working. So and it is this journey that's most exciting for us.
Right. So again, team and the fundamentals, but also being able to pivot quickly. All those things are important. You're reiterating to some degree what Leslie said.
And also composability. Yes. I think like a lot about the decentralized economy is about these money Legos, where different projects can leverage on each other's communities as well as leverage on each other's sort of technologies to create a more sort of vibrant ecosystem. So it's also no use creating your own project in a sandbox. It has to compose very well with other projects or even build around other projects with high TVL. I think that sort of collaborative approach breeds success. And these are the types of projects we like to invest and support.
It's the DNA of blockchain. It's decentralized, right? It's a new way of being. It takes out the middleman, as Leslie said previously. It can't be held close to the vest. It has to play nice with others. I totally agree with that. Yeah, thank you for that, Sherwin. Chris, hand off to you. What do you look for in an investment? You mentioned a little bit of it on the last question, but a little bit more elaboration might be
good. Yeah, and so I think people are absolutely the people are absolutely critical to. I mean, both Sherwin and Leslie, mentioned this. First and foremost is, are these people going to deliver this product? Did they have the passion? Did they have the vision? It's not an easy ride. So when the going gets tough, are they going to be able to pull together and work through all the challenges? Because there's several challenges that can happen along the way to getting to where you need to get to, right? And if you do look at the Aave guys, they faced significant challenge along the way, and they worked their way through that and built a very successful product. So people are important. Absolutely. There's kind of some verticals that we focus on, just to simplify things. DeFi, number one, and reason being that obviously it's a hot topic. It's a perfect use case for cryptocurrency, and there's people are seeing immediate benefit from this, financial benefit. So I think that's kind of the reward mechanism to help with the growth of that particular space. And also it aligns very nicely with our backgrounds, coming from traditional finance, people on the team coming from traditional finance backgrounds or close to, we can add a lot of value to, to some of the product development. NFTs and NFT marketplaces, is another focus areas for us. It's super hot at the moment. I think there's a lot more room for development in that particular space. I do question the longevity, whether we'll hit a kind of peak on that, and and we'll go into a bear market in that space. But for now, it's a pretty hot space. The other part is gaming. Gamers for years have been collecting digital gold, currency, gems, etc., that have been absolutely worthless, but they'll play for hours and hours and hours to build this up. These guys know or can see the value of cryptocurrency. So if there's a way to monetize their time and effort and their work and be able to trade either those gems or gold or whatever, or the assets that they win in game and trade that on another platform or use on another game, to me there's a huge opportunity there. And and that's why we Animoca brands, for example, we do a lot of work with Animoca and Yatsu. We invest in that, and things like Star Atlas and Bitspawn, other examples of gaming platforms that we're partnering with. We see a huge future for those platforms. And then the other piece is infrastructure, and specifically around the trading piece. So where we're seeing the market evolve to is more levels of sophistication around things like high frequency trading, being able to trade concurrently on multiple exchanges, whether they be centralized or decentralized. So we're seeing a lot of projects building out. It's not on the market yet, but they're building out sophisticated tools. And for us, we do look at the future, while I believe the market's super hot right now, having come into the market and got burnt, a year later, it's always at the back of my mind is that when is the bear market going to happen? I think it's an inevitability that we will face, super bull and then, or we might not, but some kind of bull market and then hit a bear market. So what are those projects that are truly going to survive that bear market? And trading products, you need to trade in a bull or a bear market. So for us, there's there's long-term sort of potential there. But the key factor for me is, would I use it? So am I actually going to use this product? Do I see myself using this product? And if I can't, then it's difficult for me to see how this would this would work. So that's also important for me, is am I going to be a user of this system as well?
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the traditional investing Warren Buffett approach, right? He usually buys things that he believes and understands. So, but one thing I will say is that I knew all those years of MMORPGs would pay off for me, all that time invested in playing online role-playing games. It built the mindset. Last question, this is fascinating, right? I so appreciate all of you. I think the listeners here are getting so much to take with them into their investment and trading. Also, if they're starting a company, what they need to do. Obviously, we've learned a lot about Singularity Dao today and how AI plays into the crypto decentralized blockchain world. So let's sum it up with where you think, the what if. Leslie, I'm going to start with you. The what if. Where are we going to be in this crypto market in 5 to 10 years in your eyes?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think there's going to be a whole. I'm a little bit reticent because I think people in TradFi and the world, Eugene, that guy at the World Bank, and Christine Lagarde, they might not like it, but I think everyone, you're going to see a move back to individuals doing their own finances. So CDBC is the same thing. And if you CDBCs aren't really going to replace crypto because it's still sort of government and there's sort of KYC, but what is it going to replace? It's going to cause a lot of shock to guys like WeChat and Alipay, and also like JP Morgan, where because your money's stuck with the company and it takes so much time to take it out, you'd buy their funds or you'd buy their insurance or you get their mortgage. With a wallet, I control my own destiny. And so all these guys with their moats, they're gonna go away. And I think finance is gonna change. Do you see 23-year-old guys playing the newest MMORPG, wanting to put their money, I mean, in a name old boomer TradFi fund management company, with names, I don't want to name them because I actually covered a lot of them back then. Not really, right? That they want to read their own news, right? And if you're a sell side research analyst at Citibank and you go talk to companies, why do we need people like that when they just tweet, right? I mean, why do I need a research analyst on Tesla? I mean, I think I know more about Tesla than that guy because he doesn't go on Twitter. So I think the world is moving in that regard. And so I think there's going to be a lot more personal finance on crypto and blockchain, and the world would be very different. Just like, sort of the 2000 to 2010 is sort of like the 2010 2015 is sort of like the gig economy with Airbnb and so on. 2015 2020 is more like big data, AI. Well, we'll see some of that seeping into here. 2020 to 2025 I think could be the era of cryptocurrencies and digital finance and blockchain. So I don't really know what's going to happen in the next 5 years, but I see the world being a very different place from a financial point of view. I think the banks, they're gonna get taken out in many ways. I mean, of course, not as drastic. They still want to serve the like people my age and above, right? But but everyone else, they're gonna realize that they can control their own finances. Yeah.
It may take some time to unravel all the power structures there, but I totally agree with you. I'm talking to some crypto investors and financial services companies are like, yeah, we're putting our first advertisement up in Decentraland, a billboard there, or they're buying their own branch inside of Decentraland, and that's just so far from the traditional thinking today. I totally agree. So, and I'm going to I'll put a bookmark in. I think 2025 to 2030, quantum and AI are going to make a big impact there, possibly robotics too. But that's my Singularity Net hat on there, but I would agree with you. 25 to 30 is what I meant. 25 to 30 AI and quantum. 20 to 25, I do agree with you. This is the half decade of crypto. So agree with that. Sherwin, where are we at next 5 to 10 years, in your opinion?
Well, I can tell you some perspectives of what I see now, and then what I can project to happen in the next 5 years. Well, right now in the millennial generation, which is a generation below me, even 12 years old, I see my little niece trading on PancakeSwap and doing the crossover to Solana. I'm quite fascinated because the new generation are a lot more crypto savvy than we think. And I think this whole idea that crypto is monetary freedom of choice, that in a self-custodial way, you're able to generate yield and be in charge of your own destiny, is a very important ideology that's gripping our younger generations. So that I see taking over the older generation of, okay, let's put our money in the bank and just get a 0% to 1% fixed income yield. And right now, actually, we see the convergence again with the credit markets and the crypto markets, because in the credit markets, the US dollar is free, pretty much 0 to 1% on the borrow. And once you have institutional borrowers and lenders coming into the space providing liquidity, we should see yields compress over the next couple of years, especially funding rates, right, where we get huge arbitrage and yields on just delta neutral cash and carry trades in the market. So I think the institutions will come in, and projecting from that, we'll see high net worth individuals, family offices, endowment funds, pension funds reinventing themselves. Instead of buying mortgage-backed securities, they will just hold ETH and and stake it for 30% APY. And I think that would be sort of a natural progression, right? Notwithstanding the reflexivity in the credit markets. I think the most important realization that we need to get in the crypto space is not to be afraid of volatility. A lot of people say, okay, volatility is something to be afraid of, but they're making the fundamental assumption that your US dollar is stable. It's not. It's being diluted every year by more than 20%. So once you understand that the reflexivity in crypto is actually a hedge on your dollar holdings, then this sort of mindset shift will change investment attitudes. What's going to happen in 5 to 10 years? Well, that means that if the foregoing of what I mentioned is correct, that means that banks, financial institutions, stock markets, launch pads of any sort will have to reinvent themselves, right? They have to reinvent issues and solve things such as custody. If you take custody of someone's asset, you have to pay them a fair yield on it. Asset management, audit, administration, and how can we provide sort of that assurance and confidence from big investors such as pension funds, which hold their capital utilization. So I think in terms of capital utilization, we're going to see a paradigm shift over the next 5 to 10 years. How capital is utilized and how portfolios are constructed. And I think the centralized players of the bygone era have to reinvent themselves because, to be honest, I see the capital markets as we currently understanding understand it, slowly crumbling in front of our eyes.
Agreed, right. I think that the centralized and decentralized movement is important. And I've been fortunate enough to be on calls with some heads of family offices, and I see that they are actually, some of them are actually organizing their DeFi plan in a very calculated and organized way. So this acceleration is happening faster than any acceleration we've seen before. And I think we'll see a lot of the changes you mentioned very soon. Chris, I'll hand that one off to you. What's the future here?
Okay, so, you know, in terms of Bitcoin, I think, you know, there'll be continued adoption by the retail markets, right? So especially in economies with, you know, weak currency. So I think we'll see continuation of adoption of Bitcoin there. And similarly with institutions, you know, so, you know, Tesla, MicroStrategy, these are, you know, they have first mover advantage, but I think we'll see, you know, adoption of many different institutions, you know, starting to use Bitcoin as part of their treasury. But I think the other thing on the horizon in sort of 5 years, 10 years is central banks, you know, starting to you know, store Bitcoin instead of or as well as gold, you know, as a hedge against currency fluctuations. So, you know, I think that will validate this space to a much wider you know, population, right? So I think that will help. You know, I think Bitcoin, things with Tesla has helped with the, you know, the adoption of other cryptocurrencies as well. So, you know, in terms of lending protocols, I think lending protocols will, you know, will increase that. I think there will be lower collateralization rates for lending, right? So I'm seeing a number of different protocols that are coming out at the moment that can help to lower that collateralization rate by looking at credit risk scoring. You know, so I think in the future we will see things like, you know, car financing through crypto, you know, through a protocol, or mortgages. You know, the holy grail, I think, you know, so having just gone through a mortgage process myself is very painful process. It takes a long time, you know, and I think one day, you know, the Aves of the world will, you know, will maybe, you know, be able to provide a mortgage, you know, to the market. The other thing that I see is, you know, fractionalization, tokenization, you know, increased tokenization of assets. So, you know, stock trading, you know, we're seeing FTX, Binance, you know, trading tokenized stock on the exchange. You know, so I think that will evolve even further. There are already other exchanges looking into tokenized stock. You know, once we can get that off the exchanges and trade on something like a Uniswap, you know, I think then that's a game changer. And certainly we're speaking to projects that are focused on, you know, doing this at the moment. And, you know, with the real estate piece, there was obviously Labs, you know, who launched a real estate tokenization project, another Hong Kong project. You know, so I think that will continue. You know, if you can own a part of a hotel or a Starbucks in the US, or a hotel in Thailand, or, you know, or a diversified stock of Europe, Asia, you know, commercial buildings, you know, I think that could be, you know, highly attractive. You know, and other assets as well that can be fractionalized, you know, whether they be Banksy artwork or, you know, or whatever, right? So there's different ideas that I see coming through at the moment that I think will take some time to take hold. So I think in 5 years' time, that's when there will probably maybe be more of a reality in terms of, so. And really, from my perspective, from a ideology perspective, you know, I would love in 5 years, 10 years time to be able to be seeing people in underdeveloped countries able to earn money on their phone, make interest on the phone, take a loan out, you know, insure themselves or invest. And for me, that's the real game changer for this technology. You know, places like Africa, and obviously Cardano are doing a huge amount of work in Africa, right? You know, I think this in 5 years time could become more of a reality. And for me, that could be an absolute game changer for helping those economies to develop rather than be outpaced by advanced economies, helping them to develop a lot faster. So, you know, that's something I would ideally love to see, and that's, you know, part of, you know, it's one of the reasons why I'm part of this whole journey.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you so much for that, Chris. And gentlemen, love this conversation so much. It's 10:30 all of your time. It's just 7:30 in the morning Pacific time. but it's like you just woke up and you have so much energy about all this. I doubt you'll be able to sleep. You got to get your trades in anyway before you do. So to Leslie, Sherwin, Chris, really appreciate you all. You're all bound now by your involvement with Singularity DAO. So we'll watch how that unfolds over the coming days. So thank you. I think for you users or listeners or visitors who are here with us today of this episode of Decentralized Economy, the State of Cryptocurrency Part 2, I'm sure you found this enlightening. And just let me real quick, Leslie, where can people find you and find out more about you?
Sure. I mean, we have a website called gbv.capital, or yeah, I mean, I guess Sherwin's wearing an FTX shirt. I just recently went on their FTX podcast, so if you have time, please listen to it. But otherwise, we could be found on the website gbv.capital. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sherwin, how about yourself?
Yeah, you can reach me on qsnholdings.com or DeFi.capital with a hyphen between the D and the Phi. So yeah, you can contact me from there, no problem.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Very easy, SMOcapital.net. You can find us
Okay,
there.
awesome. Everybody that's listening, don't feel free to reach out to them. I'm sure they're happy to answer your questions, and I'm sure they're fielding lots of projects. But if you have one, I would expect that they wouldn't mind to take a look at it. Thank you so much again for watching this episode of the Decentralized Economy. We're going to be bringing you more guests real soon. Take care, and we'll talk to you in the near future.